We're all just kind of like dancing to the music. I don't even think you guys could hear the music, but you're all just dancing anyway. Probably to respond to me. Well, welcome everybody to Spark of Madness. We are
GOT Hype Train.
A day later than usual, talking about the most recent Game of Thrones episode. But if you're like at least half of the people on this podcast, you have seen it for like the last 5 days. So just extra time. Well, guys, where do you want to begin with episode 6?
I would like to begin. There's a zombie dragon. Zombie dragon. Big zombie dragon. Zombie dragon. I called it. Zombie dragon.
Since he is a zombie dragon, does that mean he's... Here's the question. Does he still count on the board since he's technically still back in play?
Yeah.
Oh, you think I don't have that queued up first?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and pull that up.
Let's go to the...
Deathpool.
Show me potato
Points
salad.
on the board. Bam. Dragon death. I'm counting it.
I got a text last night from someone who said that exact same thing. Points on the board.
But you didn't specify which dragon. I think that's
that was
chicanery.
my very
That's
vague
chicanery.
rules in the start in our premiere episode. I specifically said you can pick any dragon.
You know what I should have done?
I wasn't there. I wasn't
Well,
there, so I
okay.
kind of think that's bullshit.
Yeah.
That I couldn't. I mean,
Hey.
you get 75% of your points. How about
Hey.
You
that?
could pick in
I-
Lannister.
You got.
Oh, that's bogus. I
You
think
all
you should
knew
lose.
the rules. You all knew the rules. I
What?
actually picked the dragon. Actually, no, the dragon was my first pick. But yeah,
Yeah,
Which
I
dragon
figured
died?
it.
Which dragon died, Matt?
Viserion.
Ah, okay. Well,
Yeah,
I
I
think
got
it's
I got
amazing.
something later for
I'll
that.
allow it.
I think it's amazing
know,
we got to week 6 of a 7-week season before we got points on the board. I think that's
It's-
amazing.
I think-
Well, yeah, and there's been deaths, but not like we intentionally chose more major characters, like more significant characters, and it's I don't know if you could say it's surprising, but because of like the lack of major character, I guess there's a handful over the last couple seasons, but like
I knew
there's
it.
some coming now. I think
I knew
there's
I
coming up
should-
next season.
I knew I should have picked a bear. I almost did it, but you know.
I
That
vote
bear
since
was
he-
awesome.
I vote since he got one dragon out of 3, he should lose 2 points. So you just get 1 point for that.
No, you knew the rules. We made the rules.
I
what,
think
next
it's
time-
fine to get. I think
in
it's
our
fine.
imaginary game with no punishment and no reward. Like
It's for pride. I won't bend the knee. I won't do it.
the knee.
I think it's fine.
Alright.
He gets a point. However, if another dragon dies, I don't think he gets a second point.
No, I don't. Well, you've got one more episode, Brandon, before you lock in that Ilaria death.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
we're saying
so
I'd get credit
I
for it
think
if
we
don't see
agree.
her
I
again?
think we can agree on that.
Yeah.
But we'll
I think
see.
I might get.
Let's.
I think I might get the 2-for-1 special.
Yeah.
I think I might get next episode. I might get Littlefinger. He might be already dead. I think, and I think
Already,
it's gonna.
already did how?
Please explain.
Hey,
I'll-
let's.
we'll
so
get to that.
We'll get to that.
I also
Let's
smell.
just-
I also smell Clegane Bowl too. I smell.
Oh,
I
yeah.
smell that. I smell that.
yeah.
Rainbow, get hyped for that. 'cause
They
that
have
is
a-
definitely-
You have been traveling, so you've probably been cooped up into a car for a little bit. Maybe that's what you're smelling. I don't know.
So let's before we go any further, let's actually just sort of check our little progress thing. So last week, I know Nick and I were a little more down on the episode because it didn't necessarily pump the brakes, but it I don't know, from my perspective, it went in a completely new direction that we can kind of get into, where we see sort of the fruits of that with episode 6, where our Magnificent Seven, which turned out to be more than 7 all of a sudden, wanders out into the snow to catch a white, and we see that plan unfold while also basically jumping back and forth between that plan and Daenerys coming to save them, and Arya and Sansa.
A lot there.
Just kind of jumping back and forth. So a little bit more narrow focus than the previous episode, and it kind of got back to like just focusing on 2 or 3 plots at the same time rather than like check in on everybody, which I think worked pretty well. What did you guys think of this one, kind of from a big picture standpoint? Brandon, how about you go first?
Sure. I think first of all, I think it was a lot of fun. I think there are a lot of story problems that I had as far as like what they're trying to tell and some of the ways, but I still found myself, even in spite of some of the things that I might pick apart, it was still a very fun episode to watch and was exciting. I'm not sure I completely understand what they're trying to do with the Arya and Sansa thing. I'm not feeling that. I'm not feeling that.
If someone can explain that would be great.
I think it's a smoke screen.
Yeah, and Ben and I have actually talked about this before. That's completely my point. I think it's a feint that they're setting up for something to happen in the next episode, but I don't think it necessarily executes very well now. So it could be that what they show us in the next episode is interesting enough to justify it, but I'm definitely not feeling it now. Last week, getting back to the point about the overall story and that whole, we talked last week quite a bit about how silly this mission was to get this white and everything. I was more willing to give that the benefit of the doubt because I knew that we were going to have this mission north of the wall, and I felt like they were kind of laying the groundwork and it was going to be worth getting there. And ultimately, I still enjoyed this episode quite a bit. It was a lot of fun, but I don't know that they necessarily justified some of the silliness of the story of the having to get a white to convince Cersei. Could they not have this battle by just convincing Dany? There's some questions I think that are fair to ask there. Also, they went up there. The whole point, John's been spending the last 5 episodes complaining about Dragonglass. They finally go north, and other than Jorah having a Dragonglass dagger, why are they not why don't they have like whips with Dragonglass at the end of it and spears and everything? They ought to have like a whirling dervish of Dragonglass going on all over around.
It did, well, I think I'll just say, I think it gets at sort of like their 2 end games for this whole mission, and this, like, they got halfway through the season and it was almost like, all right, we have 2 things in mind. We got to show the dragons being vulnerable, but also like in a way that makes kind of sense where it'll still come back and haunt her. So we're going to kill one, but we're also going to turn it. So it's now 1 versus 2 instead of just 2 versus.
I think if I can, what I'm feeling, I think I could put it more succinctly by saying, in previous seasons, you've definitely felt like there's this really intricate tapestry that's being woven, and you're kind of following it through. This is one of the first seasons, and maybe it's because of the compressed schedule, where I felt like they had points that they knew they wanted to hit, and then they were kind of writing to connect these points together. Previous seasons has not felt like that to me, because it's felt a lot more organic.
Nick,
season 5 felt pretty bad to me. That's my least favorite season. I feel like this like Arya this season has like 2 faces. It's either hurry up and get people where they need to go, or like, oh, let's spend a little more time and slow down. Like, I felt like this episode there were a lot of times that like, oh, like Dany and Tyrion, that was a really good scene where they kind of slowed down, and like the dialogue there was good, and it felt like that was better in terms of story than a lot of the other dialogue portions in the season. Like when Tyrion went and saw Jaime, they should have just added like 3 minutes of that episode and like made that breathe a little more, and it probably wouldn't cost all that much. Maybe I don't know, maybe they had some actor scheduling issues, whatever, but like this episode, it felt like, like Matt was saying, they tacked on less location, so they were able to let things breathe a little more. Like when they were walking up north, some of the conversations and the joking that was going on between everybody, like that felt good. It would have made sense like if there was a little more of that before we got there. Like now instead it was just like click click click. Yeah, you're right, they don't have Dragonglass. Why don't they have a backpack of Dragonglass? Like, it's so stupid. Like it's like they poured the liquid into the funnel, and then now it's in the cup, and that's the stupidest example. Now they're in the cup, so we can let it breathe a little bit. Because I
agree with you. I felt like the writing, I even wrote for like the first 2 or 3 scenes in my notes, like the writing's pretty good for these scenes. And I thought like the little conversations and character development, I felt like that was all really strong, and like they're tying up like how these different dynamics with the group beyond the wall work together. But just like it got back to the overall pacing of the season, where it's almost simultaneously really slow while also being like, we're rushing through this to get to this. It almost felt like they worked backwards from, we want to get the scene where all of our major characters are in the same place at the same time, which they're going to do for the finale. And they just worked backwards from there, which I'm sure isn't the case, but like a lot of the big, like they did a good job with the small moments, but then the big moments, like the big plot shifts for our major characters felt either really abrupt or like just didn't make sense. So that's kind of where I'm at, especially with this episode. Like to see it, the last episode kind of being like, maybe they'll bring it together, and then this one kind of confirmed that for me. Ben, what did you think?
Okay, well, I agree to you guys' points about the interweaving tapestries of this season, especially. I know you didn't like season 5, Nick, but it was still interwoven. There was still a lot of character development. Everything it was still woven pretty good. Everything's, you're right, happening abruptly. I have a theory why that's happening. I think it's a bunch of reasons muddled into one reason. One being that they're hurrying up to get as much out as they can because of money. The show is getting more and more expensive. You know what I mean? And they want to try to wrap, like they pigeonhole themselves by having 7 episodes and not a full season, and they want to wrap it up so that they can get this out without it getting too expensive and get it done. You know what I mean? It's still going to be expensive, but they said we're just got to get this done. 2, this season, I believe George R. Martin is not readily available with them as a consultant to help interweave that tapestry. And I think this is the first season that hasn't done that because he's trying to finish the other books. And so I think not having him on board doesn't help some of the tapestry. I mean, they ask him, he's consulted, but he's not there at a regular basis as he was in other seasons. 2, this episode, I thought it was the best episode of this season.
Ooh.
I thought it was
controversial.
Yeah.
It was the best episode of the season because it was a central battle, but it was good with character development, good with relationships, good with a lot of different things. Other than Arya's and Sansa's timeline, I thought everything else was cool. Everything about the East Watch and the Wall and fighting the zombies and stuff. However, there's a lot of silly plot things that if I have time to get into that.
Let's start going down the silly ones because I've got a whole list. So we could just start with the crap and then gradually work to be more positive. Just before we go though, I will say I 100% agree with Brandon that like as much of this kind of like weird or like plot holes or conveniences or stuff I didn't agree with or was rushed through, it still was a lot of fun. Like I was thoroughly entertained the whole time, which was the opposite for me of last week. This episode had enough in there that was like, oh, that was really funny line, or that was a really cool scene.
This was probably
to, like keep me like, oh, this is still the show I love. So
this was probably my second or third favorite episode of the season. Like it was above some of the fast crappier ones where they just breeze through everything.
I just say that I say it's controversial just because of the Dothraki horde when we first see the scorpion and everything, whatever that episode's name was.
I think it's the best episode for me because of everything that happens. So many things have happened of consequences in this one. I think that's why it's the best episode. There's a lot of consequence happening. One glaring thing I had a problem with in the plot, Matt, was, it's cool that we have the best javelin thrower in the world that can take down a dragon, but why don't you go for the first one right in front of you that hasn't taken off with people?
Hold on. I got a picture. Hold on. I got the picture. I'm going to show you guys won't be able to see, but I'm going to pull up the photo, the screenshot of the distances that you're exactly talking about with the Night King. So with like Drogon and all the people are like right in front of him on the ground.
There's an obvious reason to this.
Viserion's flying away.
I want to hear the obvious reason.
What is the obvious reason?
He's just playing.
Please tell me, because this makes no sense.
Drogon, as we know, Viserion and I'm sorry, I just got distracted by the actual shot that he threw up. As you know, Viserion and I'm blanking on the other dragon's name, right?
Rhaegal.
Rhaegal. they were chained and were underdeveloped because they'd been kept in for so long. He just knew instinctively that particular Jaggerin at that throw, he's going to have a better shot at one that had its wings up and it was in flight. It was more vulnerable and younger, and so he had a better shot of taking it down. And obviously, he was right because one shot. Boom.
I didn't think it made any sense.
It
whatsoever.
also was the dragon that was wearing the least plot armor.
Yeah, the least plot armor. He was just like, he's one of those guys at the gym that wants to show off, and so he wanted to show he could throw it further and more accurate.
Well,
so
I'll
He
say
was
this,
a red shirt like half of the Magnificent Seven. Like there was like red shirt like Star Trek. You know, oh, I don't know who you are.
What
and
you
you're
guys
gonna
didn't
die.
see, what you guys didn't see in the episode though was he kind of was like this, measuring it, and then right before the end, he just looked away, and then no look.
yeah,
Fade away.
He looked right at camera.
Yeah,
Fade away 3.
yeah, nothing but
Steph
net.
Curry.
we had seen that their ice weapons, with the exception of against Valyrian steel, we'd seen that their ice weapons were like devastating, right? Anytime they came in contact, they were like destroying swords, things like that. So I do think, to your point, as far as which one he chose, I think there's a fair criticism there.
Yeah.
But I do like
Well-
the fact that we had been kind of built up to know that these ice weapons were mystical in power. And so
Yeah.
seeing them take that, I also thought just they have got so good at doing dragons, guys, compared to
Yeah.
like the earlier
Right.
seasons. They are
Oh.
spectacular.
They are beautiful. It was
Well, and
wonderful.
you can even see how much blood it's losing, even as it's crashing. I thought that was really
Falling
effective
down.
to say it is messed up, guys.
And the shot
was
of it
cool, the
sliding
fire.
into the water too
Yeah.
was really like, that was like an underrated, like it's cool to see them in action, but to see it, like, it felt very real. It kind
Had
of
weight to
slinking
it.
in. Yeah.
I legitimately almost cried. That's
Me too.
kind of crazy. Like I was like the way they handled the music leading up to the battle, and then it got quiet, and then they like queued
Yeah.
up the dramatic music, and it felt more hard than some people deaths. Honestly.
Oh, for sure. And the
I don't-
reaction
You know-
you got major reaction shots from all the characters too, going,
Yeah.
holy sh-.
It's a lot of glistening eyeballs in
Yeah.
those shots. Like,
I mean, I totally didn't cry, but
It's
you
getting dusty in here.
Nick, Nick, you know what they should have played when after he got stabbed and fell. With
Get-
all the
get the
emotional
crickets
faces,
ready.
they should play the up music, like real
I thought
sad.
you were gonna go with our bring back our call back to the Sarah McLachlan music of the dead animals
Yeah.
from our premiere. Well,
Yeah.
in the comments, Amy mentioned that the Night King was going for gold, and I think that's like that's a good comment, not just for him, but we saw like a lot of like, we've got like a good Olympic team here with Gendry just like Usain bolting back to the wall.
Marathon.
We've got
And we know he can row.
fencers. We've got a great fencing team, I think,
Yeah.
with this group.
I think
Yeah,
I think
sure.
Henry might go in for the triathlon because we know he can row too.
Yeah, there you go.
And
and
and,
the Hound chucking the rock. We've got a
pole
shot
vaulting.
putter.
I'm really glad that they had that scene off camera where they were racing each other, so they all knew that Gendry was the fastest one.
So if we're bringing up plot holes, we have seen the Night's Watch go on missions north of the wall, and what happens? They bring the ravens with them. So why didn't they have any ravens? Why didn't they have any horses? What?
Why
There's-
this plan at all, Brandon?
Yeah.
This is the problem.
because Jon Snow's
Because you had to
Jon
get a
Snow's-
dragon killed north of the wall to become.
Why didn't they just be like, hey, I'm Jon Snow. I'm gonna ride with Daenerys on one dragon, fly in, pick one up in the mouth, fly away. Done.
Because
That
you had to lose a dragon, so you would have had to go with two.
What
Again,
did
they knew they
what-
had to lose a dragon. That was fake.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Well-
saying. Is everything is about the yeah, Robbie, because good TV. Yeah, that's what like, as fun as all this is, it's all just kind of like, oh, that would be a cool thing to shoot. That would be fun. Like the character, like they do the good writing for the characters, and then their decisions don't really like match up or what.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I see Nancy in the
Yeah.
chat is asking about where they got the chains to pull up the dragon. If there's a home
Yeah.
Depot on the wall, what they did was they took Benjen's chain for his swinging thing, and then they just expanded it. So that's
They
what
just
that-
used magic on
yes,
it.
it's Benjen's.
But that
chain.
was That was a cool image. That was a cool image. Like,
Yeah.
they're just carrying like that was so cool. That was a cool.
I didn't mind the chains so much as
Who put them on them? Who put the like?
Engine
Sure,
coming out of
yeah.
nowhere.
Oh, that would have been simple. You just, I mean, that part you just send a white with something on him to make him sink. It's not like they
Some
can't breathe
scuba gear.
underwater. Yeah, they got need to breathe.
Well, they could tell that the ice,
Magic.
they could realize that the ice had frozen solid, so I think they can kind of put stuff in
Yeah.
a loop or
They
something.
do like the barrel of monkeys thing where they just kind of link arms all the way down until they can
So,
like tie it around.
Actually, getting to some of the
monkeys.
seriousness of the plot, did anybody else take that we're getting a very heavily signaled thing that Jon Snow is not alive? The whole fact he was
No,
knocked
I
into the
didn't get
water.
that at all.
So he's knocked into the frozen water for a long period of time, comes out, does
Yeah.
not freeze to death. I don't think Jon Snow's living.
You don't think so?
I think
No.
he is. I think it's just stupid, like
I-
Jamie. It's
I
just like
think-
Jamie surviving to me.
I think he and Beric Dondarrion
Yeah.
are whites. I don't think they're whites for the other side, but I don't think they're living. And I wonder if that does come into play if he and Danny's relationship gets more serious.
Interesting. Well, before we get into stock up, stock down, I'm going to run through some of these conveniences that I wrote because I think so. We've got the supersonic flying Raven, and I know we could talk about time, but
Sure.
you know how long things took. But the Raven, Gendry running super fast. The fact that so I think it would have been better. Like I kind of get, the dragon had to come in, and that she had to go and rescue them. Once she heard she obviously was going to fly in, that's what was going to happen.
Mhm.
But what would have been, it kind of undercut the emotional, like the danger of them getting surrounded once the battle started. Like, oh, they're just going to get saved here. So like they shouldn't have shown that scene. They should have left us in suspense as to when and whether she got the Raven at all, in my opinion.
You're not
Yeah.
wrong, but the shot of her leaving with that regal winter coat that she had on, and then the three dragons taken off, that was to me, in my opinion, that was a huge
Beautiful.
emotional shot. So I get what you're talking about completely, but that they would have had to have given me a flashback because I had to see that.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
okay.
and I'm with you, Matt. I'm with you 100%. But I think probably that too. Your point, Brandon, about that. But I think also they're like, well, we don't want the Deus Ex Machina, bullshit again of saving last minute. So we know that they're on the way. Like we know that it's on the way. I think
So
having
they
that-
saved their ex machina for later with Benjen then. Like the crazy
exactly
random
That is-
one.
Yeah.
I think somebody might have, I can't read fast enough, someone might have pointed out in the comments the fact that his sword was just laying on the ice for him
Yeah.
to pick up once the one spot he popped out of, it was still there.
Magic.
The fact that the whites waited at all, to me, seemed kind of advantageous and convenient. Like
That's true.
they surrounded and just like let them hang out there. What
Well, I
did you
think-
guys think
I think
of that?
that
'Cause
kinda
some people
goes-
were
I
like,
I think that kind of goes to Brandon's point that it kind of feels like he was submerged for a while and they just assumed he was dead, so they were kind of moving on a little bit. I don't know.
no, I mean
You're talking about
just
earlier
the
in the
entire
fight?
episode. Like they just let
No,
them
that may-
sit
but
there and
that-
freeze.
It's because
to death
that may-
they
and
were
not attack.
falling in. I think that when I first
Yeah.
I watched it a couple times. When I first watched it, I thought they purposely jumped and created that moat around them to trap them. In the second viewing, I realized that they were chasing them and they fell through, and then they were waiting on it to refreeze over. Now you could make an argument: why didn't Beric fire up his torch sword and keep it melted?
That was.
I have a disagreement with that though, in that we saw them go into the water and come out of it.
I don't like
There were
trying
a
to
couple
claw
shots
and climb.
when they were in the water and then they like kind of scrapped back out of it.
Yeah, but it was
Um,
really thin. It was really thin water. Like it was. I think that's a mood.
And then they walked
Point,
across
man.
anyway. Like,
They walked after it refroze, and I think that was also
Refroze.
I think that was also supposed to represent the passage of time, that they had been there for like a day and a half, and the
Absolutely.
water had refroze.
okay.
And that's why the
And that's
rock bouncing on the water, the second rock he threw, when it bounces, it was kind of a, oh crap, the
Oh.
lake's refrozen, and he just
Yeah,
kind of
my
missed the
favorite.
point. I didn't
it was-
get that in my first watching too, for what it's worth.
I got it. I think.
I just-
Go ahead, Matt.
No, the only thing I would say is, yeah, it makes sense. I guess it's just another thing that felt very convenient for them. Like, just the fact that they were not immediately attacked. You know,
It was
and gave them the time. That's all.
I
It was
thought it was brilliant. I actually liked it. Amy says not all together though. She's saying like they couldn't come all together at once because of how heavy they were. I think that's that. And so if you saw it when they did attack again, they kind of came in little bits, and then they realized, okay, it's strong enough now, and then they all started coming. So there was a strategy to it because they're all the way together because there was less of them and more of them, and all the way of the dead. They couldn't come. Yeah, it was interesting.
So
Go ahead, Nick. I
last
didn't mean
thing
to
I'll
interrupt
say,
you.
the last one I'll say, just before we keep going, is the scene where they actually do capture the white that they end up bringing back. Like, of course, it's a small party, so it's easy for them to capture one. But then also, like, you forget that they killed the leader, and then the rest of them all died, except for one. And that, like, oh, okay, so that's the one we're going to capture and bring back. Like, okay. Like, you're the only one that
That was
wasn't
interesting.
turned by this one guy. So,
Hey, coincidences happen in real life too, Matt.
that's okay. All right, let's do stock up. Somebody else can start so we can be a little more positive.
I'm with you on that.
Nick,
with
why
you on
don't
that
you
one,
give
man.
us your stock up?
Huh?
Who's your stock up this week?
Stock
Me?
up.
My stock is up for the Night King because he got himself a giant dragon.
That
Enough
is the
said.
correct
Good
answer.
That's a good point.
Done. Over. That's pretty much it. And
Yeah.
he sent a message to at least Daenerys. I feel like she's gonna have to team up now, right? Like, she's gonna be even more dedicated to this team up in the next episode.
I don't-
Well, and
yeah.
I feel like we got that payoff on the boat in this one. She basically told John, you know, I'm
Yeah.
convinced now. I'm with you. This is real. Way. Matter of fact, I think she had promised him that they would defeat the Night King.
I feel like
It's
that.
personal,
You feel like
yeah.
that almost has to come up in the next episode, though. Oh, we fought a giant polar bear, and now there's a dead dragon. Like, is it possible that like the thought of it? Like, I don't know that they're thinking of it, but you wonder if like that's gonna land for John or for somebody else. Like, hey, there was a giant dead polar bear. Maybe there's a giant dead dragon now. Like,
Oh,
I
if
don't know,
they'll realize it.
if they'll realize that, hey, maybe he has a white dragon now.
So-
I think they'll put that in play.
Yeah. Mhm.
So what's your stock up, Ben?
Well, I was going to say the Night King, but let me think about it. Rack my brain. Is it,
Since we're just, I'll go in front of you if you want more time.
Yeah,
go
go
ahead.
for it.
Okay. Since we are just focusing, we do these on the episode. I don't think this is going to pay off, but I will say just in this episode, you'd have to say stock up Littlefinger.
Yeah, I had him ready to go if you weren't gonna say it.
Yep. I think stock up Littlefinger,
I've-
and I know, Ben, you've got the theory that
Yeah.
actually we haven't seen
There's-
Littlefinger in this
He could
episode.
either
that
be
Arya's
very
actually
up or
here.
very down.
Well, can I tell you my theory real quick?
Oh, please.
My theory, Matt, that Littlefinger is already dead.
Well,
He's
yeah,
already
yeah,
dead.
they teased that at the end.
What?
At the end, how they?
Well,
tease it at the end?
I think the fact that they showed the masks kind of hints at that she might have been wearing the mask. That's at least that was my interpretation.
Do you think one of the
that
faces
Arya's
wears the
Littlefinger
mask?
already? Yeah.
I didn't
Huh.
think about that.
So I think earlier I was talking about how I thought this was like a weak point, and I wasn't feeling that tension that they were creating. It felt somewhat weak. I think one way to pay it off is that tension is, if we find out in the next episode that tension is fake and Arya's just doing it. She already
Testing.
doesn't trust Littlefinger. She's just testing Sansa to make sure that Sansa's not a problem. That would align with Ben's theory that she's already off Littlefinger and already decided that. But I don't think, one thing I talked to Ben about this is, the reason why I don't put solace in that theory is because I don't think, as a viewer, I think we're owed Littlefinger's end, and I don't think they would do that off camera. Or off, I think they would let us see that happen. So
Yeah.
I think when Littlefinger goes, I think we're going to see it, and it's not going to be in doubt.
I think
I
she's
don't
been
know.
I think it's been dead for 2 episodes. I mean, I think.
Well, you
I
just
think,
want your points.
I do. I think I think next episode could be Clegane getting ousted and
Nick, where do you
Littlefinger
fall
got
on
4
Littlefinger?
points.
Yeah, I kind of. There's no way. There's no way that Arya's this dumb or Sansa's this dumb. Is kind of where I fall. Like, and if they are, then I hate it. So
And it's bad writing.
Yeah, it's either these characters are written really poorly in the last couple episodes, or there's some longer game going on, and that's kind of what I'm hoping for. Is that there's more to it.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah, I mean, it's working out. The only reason I bring up the theory that maybe he's dead already, and the one
there's
scene
more
we
to
got
it.
in this episode was from was Arya being him, is that he seemed very it didn't seem like he was like being super manipulative. He like brought, and maybe unless he was just sort of floating the idea that Brienne's here, so she would defend both of you if there was a threat.
The
And
best
then
thing the devil ever did was convince you he's not being manipulative.
Yeah. Well, I guess I just thought it was he acted kind of weird in the one scene he was in, and then you pop open the Halloween masks, and I kind of thought it was kind of funny when she was rifling through them. I thought you'd see like a Jason mask in there. and a
So
Joker
here's
mask
a
or
question:
something.
did anybody else think that the scene where Sansa sends Brienne away was Arya? Because that was one when I was reading that, I was like, why would Sansa send Brienne away?
Yeah, that made no
No.
sense.
I
no,
wondered
because
if that
she
was
didn't
Arya.
have she didn't have her face. Why would she kill Brienne? I think
Okay.
I think the only way you can be someone else if you kill them and have their face. Like this is not.
I think you're
It's
right.
not Stan Winston's house that you can make prosthetics and stuff.
I think you're right, with the exception we saw. I believe it was in season 5. Maybe it was. I believe it was in season 5. We saw there was one fight where Arya is confronting the House of Black and White, the leader. Jaqen, thank you. Arya's confronting Jaqen, and there's like faces are getting ripped off, and one of them was her. She was looking at herself. So obviously Jaqen had the ability to create her face, and Arya wasn't dead. Unless you believe in the theory, there are some people that are.
Oh yeah.
There are some people that are peddling the theory that Arya died a long time ago, and this has been the waif the whole time. I do not believe that theory. It's funny.
No.
I mean, yeah, I guess just to explain why Brienne was sent away and the other things, like, I don't know, I'm making excuses for like what's kind of a confusing set of scenes with Arya and Sansa and
Right.
like what is happening. It just
True.
seemed kind of weird that
Smoke
you would have
screen.
to rationalize it. Ben, did you think of your stock up?
I guess in a weird way, Jon Snow's stocks up because he's convinced Dany that, you know, with proof that there's the army of the dead, and he's been sweating, you know, like the whole season, and everybody, we need awareness of this evil army coming down from the north.
Yeah, his whole
What's the
argument
deal
has
with
been,
that?
his whole
you know,
argument's
like-
been that the bigger fight, and we even see that in the clip for next week.
And
And
now
he-
they're like,
Yeah.
he's got proof. And so I think even though there was a casualty, 2 casualties that are notable, I think Jon Snow's stock is up, even though he
Thoros.
lost Benjen too. Yep. Yeah, so
She
that's my-
also, yeah, he was like, I'd bend the knee, my queen, and she was
Yeah.
like, ooh. So,
Spot on.
Boy, did you have a clip? Was that a
what
clip?
is- what is dead may never die.
You're right though, John's on the up. I think because he was kind of a reluctant king,
yeah.
for that matter. So now it's sort of like, oh, we have reason to like he sort of has the direction now and how to rationalize it even to the people in the north.
Well,
Yeah.
that's true to his character too, right? Other than the fact that he was made a steward instead of a ranger, which he really wanted to be a ranger, he was a reluctant leader of the Night's Watch. He was reluctant when he was brought back to lead the Battle of the Bastards. He's been reluctant to be a king. He's not someone who is obsessed with obtaining the mantle of leadership, but obviously he keeps being put in those situations.
Yeah, I think that maybe play on to the fact that maybe at the end one of those two, Dany and him, will die, and I think maybe Dany will die and Jon Snow will reluctantly become the king. You know what I mean? is the very, very, very end. That's a shot in the dark theory, but because of his like him not wanting it, and
Who's your stock up, Matt?
My stock up, and I'm going to comment the all-star of the episode, Tormund.
Absolutely.
Not only was he the coolest, funniest, like the highlight, like personality of the episode, but he
he's
also lived. He survived from a character standpoint. Not that that was like a big challenge for our main characters, but he was the one sort of put in the closest of danger to be pulled down into the depths. They've got a thing with like drowning people this season. It's kind of, or like fake drowning people.
He did have the best lines.
Yeah, he had a lot of really good lines of how have you been alive so long? He's like, I'm good at killing people.
Well, the part where the Hound goes, she wanted to just split you open. He goes, oh, you do know her.
And he learned another word for cock. He's pecker, dick. He's got a whole vocabulary now.
Three ways to keep warm: walking, fighting, and the best one,
fucking.
There you go.
Sarah mentioned she was out of her chair. That is quite literally true. She got up and was pacing around the room in the episode when he went down and was being drugged.
Oh no!
The way he described him having babies with Brienne too, just like the simplicity of the words he chose, like they'd conquer the world, those fucking monsters. Like, I don't remember that. I don't have the line written down.
They'd
but
be huge.
I love that.
He's not wrong.
I would love that. Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, good stuff.
So,
I also did like the line that the Hound said. Like he's like, "You got something against wildlings?" You go like, "No, I just got something against fucking redheads." You know,
gingers.
Yeah, gingers.
He's a ginger, and Gwendolyn, what's her name? Brienne is like albino a little bit. I don't know. It'd be like
platinum.
a ginger white. Like I don't know, some sort of platinum ginger. It'd be the prince that was promised. That might be who it is.
I also learned a new word. I didn't know what whinging was. Your lips are moving and you're complaining, so you're whinging.
Yeah,
whinging.
And Robbie points out the spooning. Yep, from the Hound, and that was later. Do you guys mind if I do stock down?
No,
go ahead.
Let's. I've got a fake one and a real one. I'm gonna pour one out for the zombie bear, who was probably my favorite part of the episode, but he had to die.
It was pretty awesome.
It was.
So did the Night King or one of the White Walkers turn the bear, the bear? Or how does that work?
Yeah.
The same way he did the dragon. Same way.
So are they just like creatures, like they just go around turning dead vicious animals?
Yeah,
so it's like a bunch of angry blue-eyed squirrels running around.
Does a zombie bear shit north of the wall? I don't know. Does it?
Zombie bears don't shit.
Oh. We have seen turned animals before, though, in horses, right? So we see the White Walkers; they're riding on horses. So there's a utilitarian reason for them. The bear, maybe it was guarding something. Maybe it's just meant to kind of be roaming around and doing what it did, right? So if there are any humans rolling around,
it could be a scout. It could be a scout bear. You mean? Because
he's just looking for his picnic basket.
Again, though, it goes back to that scene, but man, it was entertaining to watch. That was really, I was not expecting a big zombie polar bear. Scene. It was awesome.
Well, I think the zombie polar bear was there for two reasons. One, is fucking awesome.
Shout out to
and two, yeah, you're right. And two, it was to set up, they're gonna get the dragon or something in this episode because they're getting other kind of animals other than horses too. And so it was kind of foreshadowing what was going to happen too.
I like the fact that the Hound was not heroic in that scene. We saw him freeze up in front of fire again. That is one demon, if you will. He still has not come to bear and overcame.
Over and over. Like 3 different times in this episode, he kind of they're playing that up big time.
They definitely
for the Clegane Bowl to sandbag you a little bit.
He's going to be winning until the mountain's set aflame and doesn't care, and then
he just emerges from the flames like Daenerys. I am fire now.
The mountain's gonna wear his favorite toy that his brother took before, like
that he was pushed into the fire over.
So, why don't you guys go ahead with your stock downs? If we get to mine, we'll get to.
Did you do your real one? Do your real one.
All right, we'll get to do it real quick. My real one's Jorah, stock down. Not so much that he didn't die, but the first time when they're fighting the little group, he gets like manhandled until from the White until they kill the leader, and then he's like okay. But he didn't. It was heroic. It was nice of him to give back the sword, but he didn't get his sword back, even though it was offered to him. He also kind of admitted his sort of defeat to Jon in the romance with Daenerys of like when he gives the sword back, he's like, you'll need it for the children after you. And I interpreted that as like a subtle wink, like I know what's up. So I feel like, and he also almost fell off the dragon. I feel like selfishly, I want him to die for the death pool, but I feel like his stock is plummeting from the show perspective.
I feel like
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I feel like they were wrong in sending Gendry because Jorah's obviously the fastest. He made it from the Citadel to north of the Wall in like 45 minutes of episode time. That guy is flying.
Actually, he was in the boat. He was in the boat with Jon from the trip from Dragonstone. But why couldn't they to the Citadel to Dragonstone?
Why couldn't they teleport Varys there to just like Nightcrawler them out of there? They could have done that.
Oh, because Varys went completely across the Narrow Sea.
Yeah, everywhere. He's everywhere.
An episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben, who's your stock down?
I gotta say Tyrion. Tyrion's stock is down because we have a scene. I'm tired of doing nothing, stupid, and it just flies away. She flies away because it's showing him. This whole season is showing how Dany's losing favor with him. And pretty much his strategy of doing nothing has kind of.
Are you saying he's falling a little short?
Just a little bit. A little bit.
We're gonna get boycotted by all the little people watching this podcast.
She was throwing out the hype.
I actually thought that it was a worthy, and I think it sets up it's setting the current conversation for later. I think of secession and the long-term plan that's happening, and sort of hinting at the threat. It adds a little bit more drama to that. The fact that they're talking about what if she died and what would happen, and he's at least acknowledging that that's a problem and that she needs to think about the world she wants to build. And he sort of I don't know.
What do you think the purpose of that conversation was, Matt?
Which one?
The conversation about secession. Why do you think that was important? You've talked about the limited amount of time we have, so everything is very deliberate that they're doing. I'm curious, as you've thought about that scene, what do you think the purpose? What do you think it's built? Because I found myself thinking that's kind of an odd conversation for them to prioritize.
Well, there's kind of two things. For one, I felt like this whole episode, and also I can't remember if it was the 5th episode or 4th episode where we learned that Cersei's pregnant, but we get this idea of fertility, like contrasted with Daenerys and Cersei. Like she can't have, what we've been told.
Gotcha.
What were you gonna say? Were you gonna say something, Brandon?
5th episode. I was answering your question.
5th episode. Okay.
4th episode was the loot train, and so he wasn't there for that, and it was after.
Yeah. So I think like this idea of secession and like what would happen kind of hints at that all these characters are gonna die by the end, or most of them. But also, I think it also hints that where Jon and Daenerys may get together, like we need to acknowledge that something needs to happen. Like this whole show is built on like lineages and heirs and heiresses, and how is that going to be built out? So I think they're seeing that they need to, especially in the next season, address sort of the deeper story behind Game of Thrones as a whole. Like once the show ends, how do we set it up so that it endures beyond that?
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of twist it around and answer my own question. I think that plus the scene like you were talking about with Jorah talking about your children and all that, I think they're hinting at a surprise, or they're laying the groundwork at that she will end up becoming pregnant. Maybe.
Yeah.
Given the time we have left and what they've got going on, probably not until next season. But I wonder, again, if I had to, not that's the stage of the podcast where we're at, but if I had to kind of look long term, I wonder if she doesn't get pregnant and then John somehow is taken away and is out of the picture, but that's the lineage and that's kind of like the everlasting token from John.
That's a good point.
I think that's where they're going. Obviously, we've just taken it as fact since the first season that she's barren and that she can't have kids. And we also took it as fact that there weren't dragons in the world. So.
I kind of just was like, oh, she can't have kids. Nah, she can have kids.
Nick's got some optimism. What's your stock down, Nick?
My stock down, I guess, is Sansa. I don't really know what's going on there, but I feel like she's just stupid a lot in this episode, like just in her behaviors. I don't know how. I feel like maybe later on in the episode, like when Arya flips the dagger and gives it to her, like I'm like maybe she like they're in cahoots, but I feel like they're playing it up to where maybe if Littlefinger's watching or listening, somehow there appears to be strife between the two of them. But just like there were some things that she said that were like so dumb, and I don't know if she's playing Littlefinger or
why did she send Brienne away?
Yeah, well, first of all, she sent Brienne away, and then like when she talked to Littlefinger, she's like, "How did she get the note? How the fuck do you think she got the note, Sansa?
Yeah,
like it's obvious.
You're the one that's been on him the whole time.
Yeah, you've been on him. You've been on him the whole time, and then all of a sudden, hey, I forgot that you're the most conniving son of a bitch. You married me to two asshole sons of bitches. And now
that sociopath here. Oh,
okay. We need a new segment.
My sister got a letter. How did she do it? It's like, come on. Like I don't like even if she was double twisting, backstabbing him. He's stupid for believing her. She's that stupid. Yeah. Like I don't understand.
Let it out, Nick. Let it out.
Yeah. I mean. So
what do you really think?
Like it's frustrating, like, cause like I feel like something's going on, but I also feel like there's no way that Sansa's really in on it. Maybe they're gonna turn it all around in the next episode. I feel like they got to turn it around in the next episode, or it's kind of dumb. But also maybe it's just yeah.
It could be worse. It could be worse. They could be the Sand Snakes.
You know,
if it would be worse if they turned Sansa into this much of an idiot. Like that would be worse to me than just some crappy characters that I just wanted them to kill for the sheer joy of them being killed off. Like if Sansa literally is this stupid for episodes, even earlier in the season, like wow, she's smart, she's leading, that's great, she's kicking ass. Now, how did she get the piece of paper? And it's like this a little
dumb broad.
So that's why I'm holding on to hope that this is like a double long, triple long con, and she's sending Brienne away to like swoop in and do some weird, crazy, heroic shit later. Hopefully, she's not that dumb.
How hard would it be to go talk to the Maester and say, "I know this scroll, this part of official records, just recently came up. Do you know how this came out?" And he's going to say, "Yeah, Littlefinger had me get it for you."
Yeah.
Or just get more information from anybody.
Or just like listen to the question listen to the question you said out loud. How did she get this piece of paper? Who are you standing next to? Like, you know this guy. Like, come on. Sansa, down.
I so want a Nick Goes Off segment every podcast. So I'm now sad there's only one.
What grinds Nick's gears?
Sansa.
All right. Brandon, have you done your down?
I have not.
Okay, what's yours?
Tyrion, I think, is the correct answer, but that one's already been taken. So I will go with Brienne. I think she's done nothing wrong all season. She's done her best in a hard situation as far as, she now has two different people she's somewhat sworn to protect and whatnot. And she was kind of summarily dismissed. Now, I think it's, again, focusing just on this episode, Sansa was like really, I felt, being disrespectful to her, cutting her off and everything else. I do think it's going to turn because if you think about it, it's going to put her at King's Landing when all these principles are going to be there. So from an overall story and where I see that going, I'm glad that Brienne's going to be there. But as far as a stock down in this episode and Tyrion having already been taken, Brienne would be my choice, I think.
They could have really used Brienne with the bear, though. She has experience with bears. Just saying.
Can I make a point about Brienne going to King's Landing next episode? I have a theory, a thought, if you will, that somehow Brienne being there will show the connection that she has with Jaime Lannister, right? Because they have a special connection. Somehow Cersei's going to do something, maybe get the mountain to kill her or something like that. Something's going to happen, and Jaime's going to turn.
Is Brienne on your board, Nick?
Turn.
Oh,
Jamie's gonna turn on Cersei because of Brienne. That's just a theory.
Well,
Throwing out the
I
universe.
think you could make the argument that this could be the episode. Maybe he doesn't actually turn on her, but yeah, I agree with you that he will. I think he'll see the light potentially, that she's kind of lost it. And what I proposed in the chat actually was that we haven't seen Euron in a while. Where is he? He's with them, right? He's in.
I thought he was attacking.
Landing?
I thought he was attacking Castle Rock. Was he attacking
Casterly.
Castle Rock?
No,
Castle
he
Rock?
stayed behind for that.
Down at
right?
Castle Rock.
Dance your cares away.
Well,
I know where
my
you want
thought
to
is
go.
that my thought is
Throw
that
King's
what if it
Landing
was
just
what
away.
if Cersei's baby is Euron's, and that is sort of, in addition to her cruelty, what pushes Jamie past.
That would be-
beyond.
Nah,
I like
she's
that
playing
from a
it-
story.
She's playing it super hard to get. That ain't Euron's baby. He ain't won the war
We
yet.
need,
I
think-
we need
I
a
I
Maury
think Nick's
episode.
right, but I think Matt's story idea is better.
You know.
Yeah, there's a lot of good story ideas, but they keep
You know,
doing the
Ta-
easy thing.
talking about Cersei, we should probably acknowledge that she would not have been a bad choice for stock up after the Night's King, because if you think about it, her main enemy that she's concerned about, at least, just lost 1/3 of her dragons. They lost some people up north. They had this harrowing experience, and they've definitely got their focus now turned that way. And she didn't have to spend a thing on it. So there's an argument there that Cersei.
That was obvious last episode too. Like, she got everything. I think we even did a stock up for her. Like, everything's going Cersei's way right now.
Ben, who's your stock down? I don't think you picked one.
His was Tyrion.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Remember
Yeah,
that?
Yes.
Remember
Yeah.
that?
That's the
correct
So
answer.
any other stray thoughts? The only thing I would ask you guys is, what's Bran up to?
Bran
Hanging
is on.
out.
Bran is on the.
Staring
bed.
at his sister naked.
He's just
No, Bran's on the
You look lovely on your wedding night.
He's ripping off his practice jersey. He's getting ready to get in the game. I think
His cutaways. Yeah.
yes.
he's just hanging
Paralyzed.
out, holding twigs, holding
Yeah.
petting trees. That's all he's doing.
Well, so
I think
some
it-
people were saying that the Night King is Bran. I don't, and that, like, the reason he didn't go short with his throw and, like, actually do the logical thing is because he knows that if he kills the dragon, it'll solidify the end game to, like, them teaming up, or it'll lead to the outcome that is most advantageous. So he has to do it. I don't know if I buy that though.
It's interesting, but you'd have to somehow retcon that he's that guy we saw getting created as the Night Walker
Right.
for the first time. So I think that's a little bit more challenging. But I
Red
definitely
blonde hair.
I definitely like the question that I think logically you end up at and that is twofold. So can Bran warg into the Ice Dragon?
Ooh, yes.
Okay.
I hope
That's
so.
what I think is going to happen.
There's a question. And here's another thing. Take what you guys talked about it when they killed that one White Walker, all the ones that he controlled kind of like fell apart. It almost makes you wonder, is that a type of warging? So is the Night's King essentially a master warg? Now he's not losing consciousness while he does it, but is that going to come into play at all? But I think the overall question though is that first one. Can Bran, he wasn't supposed to be able to, when he took control of Hodor, that was like, oh, you're not supposed to be able to do people or whatever. Can Bran do undead, and will that be something we see next year? I don't know.
Bran
We'll see.
can't. Bran
Maybe
can't,
they
but John can.
Maybe they practice on, but maybe they practice on the one they bring back, and then once he figures out he can do the one they bring back, it means like, we can do more. It's a possibility.
Hmm.
Crickets.
Yeah.
Crickets.
I don't know. I think so. For next episode, obviously it looks like we're not going to get the, like, what it'll probably flip back and forth between the United Nations of all the all the different factions, and then with Winterfell most likely again. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of up in the air. Where do you guys think this season's going to end on?
Doom and gloom. It has to end in the
On a
cliffhanger.
smash cut of Ilaria and Theon dying,
That's too much of a good.
And Yara.
and
Yeah, they're all just in the same room, and it blows.
It's gonna end in Euron Greyjoy in bed with Cersei. Jamie's gonna be peeking through the door, and Euron's gonna be like, and point at him, and that's
call a shot.
Fade to black.
Yeah.
See?
Is there any storylines that we've slipped and have not been paying attention to that could surprise us? So Sam
Well,
obviously
Sam.
is one on the move. I don't know. I guess he could show up like right after John and Daenerys end up in bed, and then Sam busts in right before. That's what we get. We get
Kramer's
the build
in.
up a scene. You get the
Marty, it's
music.
about your kids.
You have the candles. They're getting ready to get it on, and then Sam busts in, kind of Kramer style. Wait a minute.
You're related. Oh, wait, you already.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I still go back to my question: what cousin was George R. R. Martin so infatuated with? Because incest is throughout the series.
Yeah, we really get the psychology of the author over time, and
Cousin or
if it's
niece.
true, yeah. Well, we can save some of our additional thoughts because we're going to talk a whole lot more next week.
Live.
That's right.
From New York.
Live next week
Saturday night.
to sort of go over the season as a whole, and then we're going to talk about right after the episode again, the finale, and our thoughts going into season 8. So
Now, you said it's a special 4-hour episode. Is that what you said, Matt?
4-hour, yeah, it's a telethon to raise money. So we can do
Jerry.
this.
Jerry's gone.
For
Yeah,
25
oh, yeah.
cents, we will get
Oh.
naked. 25 cents.
Hey, we made that proposal on Spark of Madness during the Billy Madison podcast. I think we're all for getting naked on camera for money at this point.
Naked.
All from that podcast.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody, and tune in next week for all of our pre-show and post-show conversation.
Happy Games of Thrones in one more week.
Until next time.